it works.
Might be some questions, but predominantly that. Something in the car actually. What's that way? Alana.
Alana's probably not needed.
No,
So Neil won't be needed. So Troy, James, and I hang back.
Yeah, that'll be enough.
Okay.
I'm sure that you've got it covered.
Two of these for some reason. That's out.
Yeah. And I'll just pick that up. I'm like, is it tonight?
These. No, one's in the worst possible spot.
All right. Good evening, everyone. Evening, councillors and officers and members of the public. So Council would like to acknowledge the Wadawurrung people, their elders and all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people who are part of our Greater Geelong community today. So just letting everyone know this meeting, as is the practice, is being broadcast on the internet and the recording of the meeting will be published on the Council's website. So now moving into the agenda proper. First of all, if I could ask, are there any apologies this evening? I don't think so. I think we're all present. Or leaves of absence? No one seeking leave of absence? No. All right, so move into declarations of conflict of interest. Any councillor needing to declare a conflict? Councillor Aiken? I've just been advised that you are seeking leave of absence. I asked, is any councillor seeking a leave of absence? Are you seeking leave of absence? For 5th of July to 15th of July inclusive? Oh. Approved. So can I have a mover of that, Councillor Katos, and a seconder, Councillor Contel? All those in favour? So against? Carried. All right. So confirmation of minutes. I can have Councillor Contel and Councillor Sullivan. All those in favour? No one against? Carried. So we now move into public question time. So we've received a series of questions. So we'll call up those who submitted questions as they were submitted. So Marg Burke, first question.
Thank you. Marg Burke and I'm Wendy East, are asking questions on behalf of Geelong One Fire Reconciliation Group, which is a local active group with over 65 members. Firstly, I would like to acknowledge that we're meeting on Wadawurrung country that was never ceded and recognise their continuing connections to land, waters and communities. We pay our respects to Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander cultures and to elders past, present and any First Nations persons here. We have two questions. So the first question, in response to the questions submitted by One Fire to Council in February 2025, we are informed that the Council welcomes ongoing dialogue with First Nations groups and leaders and that you had met with First Nations leaders. Can you please inform us of the outcome of this meeting? And did the meeting occur before or after a vote of no confidence in the Council was issued by Traditional Owners and First Nations organisations? Has the Council done anything further or are you planning anything to respectfully start building, trusting and effective ongoing dialogue with First Nations groups and leaders?
So we will provide a written response, but in the interim, I'd like to invite Acting Executive Director of City Life, Amy Higgs, to also respond.
And thanks for your question, Marg. It is acknowledged that the observance of Australia Day remains a subject of ongoing public discussion within the Australian and the Geelong community. All existing commitments, aside from the decision made on January the 28th, 2025 regarding the naming of Australia Day, remain firmly in place. The organisation continues to make meaningful progress in collaboration with the First Nations community across a range of areas such as cultural heritage, family services, arts and culture, and employment pathways.
Can I ask a point of clarification?
Question 2.
Clarification for that, in that response?
No, it's not a forum for debate. As I mentioned, there'll be a written response sent out as well.
Yeah. Okay. Just seems we're obsessed with January the 26th and not with any other activity involved in reconciliation. The City of Greater Geelong has a Reflect Reconciliation Action Plan that was developed to change the way that the City of Greater Geelong do things to better support reconciliation within our organisation and within our community. I'm quoting from you there. Since elected in 2024, what action has this council taken to ensure it is meeting its commitments outlined in its Reconciliation Action Plan?
Again, thanks for your question, Marg. The Council acknowledges that the Reflect Reconciliation Action Plan, the RAP, was successfully and thoughtfully developed and implemented by the Council of its time. The progression and redevelopment of the RAP responsibility is at an operational level, and Council will actively contribute input at the appropriate stage of the process.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Jamie Jeffrey. Amy Jeffrey. Move to next question. Gary Orenyuk.
Good evening all. I'm sure you're aware of my questions. The first one being as to council meetings and the limitations on time people have to ask questions, 3 minutes or whatever it is. Now my question is in regard to an extended time for questions, right? Either at your meeting here or a separate meeting, town hall meeting or something like that, a couple of weeks in between each council meeting, because there are a lot of issues to be dealt with here in this town, right, with your smart cities thing and everything else, and I'm sure people have many, many questions. I certainly do. Now, I can't see why, if the people ask for it, they should not have an extended question time or a separate thing like the town hall meeting I'm suggesting. Now, I'd like you to consider doing that and to be fairly forthcoming on some sort of reply, either published in the paper or whatever, because it's absolutely necessary, because there's a lot going on in Geelong, a lot of development going on, and a lot of unhappy people, right? I think the people in Drumcondra are pretty upset about what's going on there with the construction vehicles and workers banging up their streets and causing safety hazards for their kids that can't play on the streets, and other sort of things that people are probably quite upset about, that they need to be able to air in front of you people. So,
Right, so anyway, you've submitted the written question 1, which is paraphrased so eloquently, but what I'll get is the Acting Executive Director of City Life to make a comment, and
yeah.
I'll just say that from my experience, councillors in general make themselves pretty available, and their phone numbers are available, and mine certainly is, and people have been feeling quite free and open to phone me, and so are you. But I'll hand over for a more formal response, and you'll also get a written one, Gary, but you can phone me anytime, as I've always said.
Well,
that's my answer, and I'll give you the more formal answer, not the debate, and then you can ask your second question.
I really reject your statement about councillors being available.
Oh, well then, would you like to get the response? I'm not going to debate you. I've said it, you can phone me, you've got my number, and you feel free.
All right, well, I'll just write to you and tell you what happened then.
Well, you can do that too.
Now, second question is about
Well,
Unfortunately, it's not in the response from the officer. That's why
it is, but if maybe let's get the formal response and then the written advice as well.
Gary, again, thanks for your question. This evening, Council did trial a Meet Your Councillor session at Wariki Nial, running for approximately 45 minutes before the Council meeting this evening. Several councillors attended to connect with the community in an informal setting, allowing for open questions and discussions. The format and its timing will be reviewed ahead of the next Council meeting, and looking ahead, there are various opportunities for community engagement with councillors. In April and May, councillors will host pop-up sessions across Greater Geelong to gather feedback on the draft budget and the Council plan for 2025 to 29, with specific dates to be announced in April. And additionally, neighbourhood conversations will begin in May involving councillors, youth council members and city officers. These conversations aim to strengthen ties with the community and gather input on ongoing engagement projects. Alongside these events, some councillors are also organising their own face-to-face engagements with their respective wards to also connect directly with residents.
Well, that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about a formal gathering like this.
Gary, if we could move on to your question 2, if you like.
Yep, okay. The inordinate amount of time it takes for council to make decisions about, I think the Balliang Golf Club thing's been going on for a couple of years, and I think Councillor Sullivan said at the January meeting that they'd been considering the business about the parklet at that cafe in East Geelong for a year, right? Now, that's an inordinate amount of time for people to get an answer from council, yeah? Because you're there to provide services and you're there to deal with people courteously and efficaciously. And efficaciously means being a bit quick about it and not delaying things, right? Now, if council officers are taking a year to make a decision, I can't understand why they're doing that, because it's a simple matter to make a decision. Like in the old Corio Shire days, you wanted a planning amendment, they'd rubber stamp it on the spot for a garage or a pergola or a carport, or a maximum 3 days. And you people take a year or two. Now, that under the councils, you know that you're subject to the Australian Competition and Consumer Act for misleading and deceptive practices. Right, that's the document there, Supreme Court New South Wales decision. And also coming in under that law is denial of service and restraint of trade.
So we've got the gist of the paraphrasing of the question. I'll again invite the Acting Executive Director of City Life, Amy Higgs, to give the formal response, and then you'll also receive the written response, Gary. And
well, the question is...
we've seen the question, so maybe listen to the answer if you could, please.
Okay.
And Gary Norton, thank you for your second question. I note your views regarding the Balliang Golf Club and the East Geelong local cafe parklet issues. Public decision making within council quite often involves a detailed and thorough process to ensure that all required considerations are carefully met. Each decision is unique and timelines can be influenced by a variety of factors, including the need for ongoing engagement with stakeholders and additional community consultations. There is not always a one-size-fits-all approach. Each case involves its own complexities that could extend the time required to reach a decision. We strive to ensure decisions are made within a timely manner. This process must account for the need for due diligence, administrative and legal requirements, and broader community interests.
Yep, okay, thanks. But I don't think that's a sufficient answer, but I'll take it up another time.
Thank you, Gary.
Thanks.
Appreciate it. So, Barry M.
Hello. It was put in as a 2-part question, so just because it was too long, it was over 250 words. Is it okay if I just read it all in one go? All right, so I'll start with, as we approach the end of another fantastic season at Lara Aquatic Centre, we want to extend our sincere appreciation to the council and the facility and the staff and for their dedication and hard work. The efforts of Richard Hollins, Georgia Gordon, Rob Tregalis, and the management team, along with shift managers Cheyenne and Matt, and all the other staff, have made this another seamless success. Through very strong collaboration, we've been able to deliver multiple school and community swimming events and providing valuable opportunities for our members and broader community. As we transition to the indoor facilities next month, we look forward to continuing our partnership. However, we wanted to raise an opportunity for an improvement that would help increase the community awareness and engagement for Lara Aquatic Center. Through our conversations with community groups, we've noticed many residents are unaware of the pool's location, with even some of them recognizing Lara Pool as the school bus stop on Forest Road. The current signage presents some challenges. Northbound on Forest Road, the sign is partially blocked by a tree and then a bus shelter, making it visible only within 75 meters before it disappears behind the bus shelter. On southbound on Forest Road, it's severely sun damaged, making it and faded, making it very limited for visibility. We have worked with staff raising this internally with facilities management, and they have taken it as far as possible. We'd like to ask to have a new sign installed that is more visible and possibly an improved location, so it's not blocked by other objects on the road. Lara and the surrounding areas continue to grow. We would like to work with the City Council and work to improve the Lara Aquatic Center and encourage more community members to visit the facility. Thank you for your consideration, and we appreciate the ongoing support and look forward to another successful season ahead.
Thank you, Barry. Thank you for those kind words regarding the work of our council colleagues and for all the great work the Lara Swimming Pool does for the community. You made some excellent suggestions, and I'm advised that the Swim and Sport Leisure team will work with the council's traffic engineers to update the existing signage and explore possibilities for new, better signage to better promote the pool. So thank you for raising that with us.
Thank you.
Claire Johnston. Evening.
This is the first time I've done this. So over the last 2 weekends, 11 publicly owned properties that were previously Office of Housing properties were sold off at private auction. There are multiple standing agreements with community organisations in the area to not sell off, but rather engage with community to make the current housing stock available to those in need in the area. It has come to my attention none of these groups were approached before these properties were sold off at private auction. Homes Victoria has claimed that the sales are part of an ongoing program to refresh and renew the social housing portfolio to ensure it continues to meet the needs of renters and the communities. However, all we're seeing is our community's public assets are being sold off. This is something I've seen play out before twice in Queensland, leading to the cost of housing increasing and being priced out. The second time requiring me to relocate with my 2 children to Norlane, which is one of the few areas where we could afford rent. So my first question is there any information sharing process between the Victorian State Government and the City of Greater Geelong Council regarding the state government selling off public land assets in our local government areas? Were any council officers or councillors of the City of Greater Geelong Council aware of the Victorian State Government selling off multiple Office of Housing properties, vacant blocks at private auction across Norlane, Corio and Northern Geelong?
Thank you, Claire. I might invite the Executive Director for Placemaking, Tenille Bradley, if you could please answer those questions.
Yeah, and thanks for your questions, Claire. The sale was conducted by the state government, and in instances where council land is impacted by proposed sales, all the state government requires information from council, then Homes Vic will contact the city. Properties owned by the Office of Housing remain under the ownership, care and duty of state government and its agencies such as Homes Vic. The City has received no formal advice regarding the sale of the 11 publicly owned properties, and we are seeking confirmation of this information from the State Government.
Thank you, Claire.
Just want to thank you, Claire, for asking the question, and I understand that it can actually be very stressful getting up, and I can also acknowledge the distress and uncertainty this might be causing for the community, so thank you, Tenille, for following that up.
Councillor. Sarah.
Raising it in a community forum like this to actually get some sunlight and shine on it. Whenever we have raised that question informally with both the state representatives at the elected level and also bureaucrats, the response is there's surplus to needs. And it is really disappointing that the statistics and data doesn't show that it's surplus to needs. It actually shows that they should be either re-established as habitable housing opportunities, or they be used as opportunities to build additional housing on them. Yeah.
Councillor Aiken. Sarah Hathaway.
Thank you, Mr Mayor, councillors. So on the same topic, over the last couple of weeks, I've been contacted by multiple residents in Norlane who've noticed the multiple Office of Housing properties being put up for sale at private auction. I spent Sunday afternoon driving around with residents documenting the properties. And as we were driving around in the car, one of the passengers was looking up other properties, and it looks like there's a third tranche of properties up for sale with a different real estate agent that are also scheduled for private auction. It is generating a lot of anxiety in the community from private renters and those currently living in Office of Housing properties over concerns that private sale and development will price people out of the area who are currently renting privately. And are one rent increase away from being forced out, and those in Office of Housing properties concerned that they will be sold out from under them. My first question is, are council officers and councillors still committed to the City of Greater Geelong Council Social Housing Plan?
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Thanks, Sarah, for your question. Sales were conducted by the state government. Although the city does remain committed to the Social Housing Plan 2021 to 2024. This commitment is demonstrated by Council considering a report at the 22nd of April Council meeting regarding leasing of council land at 120 Pernell Road, Corio, for the purpose of social housing. The City will also continue negotiations with landowners to provide voluntary social and affordable housing contributions. These negotiations are ongoing, and we have multiple successful agreements prepared for future developments.
Next question.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Thanks, Tenille. So my second question is in line with Council's social housing plan. It was identified that Council has a leadership role by advocating for an increase in social housing in public policy and in the local community. Given the recent sell-off of multiple public housing properties across Norlane, Corio and North Geelong, and a number of other listings that appear to be further sale of public housing properties, will Council take this issue up with State Government as a matter of urgency and advocate that this land be retained by State Government for new social housing properties to be built?
So, Tenille, please.
Your second question, Sarah. The City is committed to advocating to state and federal government for increased investment in social housing in order to address the significant unmet need and demand for social and affordable housing in our region.
Thank you. Irith Williams.
Good evening, Mayor and councillors. I actually originally asked this question 50 days ago and have not received an answer, despite being promised complete response within 7 days of the council meeting. So I'm again reminding the council that at the 10th of December council meeting, Geelong residents asked 18 questions addressing the motion to abandon the council's 2023 adoption of recommendations by the 26th of January Community Engagement Report. This was done despite no such community engagement or any transparent or reliable evidence to support such a flagrant disregard for community engagement principles and practices. In response to these 18 questions, each resident was sent a one-line response which stated, "Thank you for your submission. Your statement has been noted by officers." Given that our questions have been mislabelled as statements, and given that council policy is to answer residents' questions submitted to council within 7 days, and given it has now been 105 days since those questions were submitted, can the council tell us when those questions will actually be answered?
I'll invite Acting Executive Director, City Life, Amy Higgs.
Thank you for your question, Irith.
Irith, actually.
Irith.
That's right.
Full responses to the December council meeting were provided after your follow-up questions at the January council meeting.
No, they weren't. I can read you the one paragraph response. There were 18 questions asked on the 10th of December, so each of those questions deserves an answer, a direct answer. So there should be 18 answers. There's one paragraph. That's not an answer.
Again, not for debate. Amy?
Officers will resend those responses to both the December and the January council meeting as emailed on January 28th and January 30th.
Well, I've got them. I have them.
Next question.
You don't need to reiterate the same non-answer.
Irith?
The questions need to be
Irith,
answered.
do you have another question?
I do.
Thank you.
In a council response to a question about the risks to the relationship between City of Greater Geelong and our First Nations community, the council asserted the following. The Greater Geelong Council had previously expressed its support for the Uluru Statement from the Heart via a letter to the Prime Minister in March 2021. Can the council affirm its continuing support for the Uluru Statement from the Heart?
Again, thank you for your question. In repeat, the full responses to the December council meeting were provided after your follow-up questions at the January council meeting.
I've never asked that question before. That's a new question for this meeting.
Officers will resend that response in December and January council meeting as emailed previously on the 28th and January the 30th, noting that we will commit to reviewing what has been issued to all residents and respond further as required.
The simple question, does the council still have a commitment to the Uluru Statement from the Heart?
We'll
I haven't asked that question
we'll
before.
follow up with the written response in addition to the response you received tonight. All right, thank you. Bruce McCole.
Good evening. My question, the development occurring at 2A Talbot Street and 4 to 8 Pringle Lane in Barwon Heads is located within an increased housing diversity area, which seeks a medium density response. The Planning Department issued a planning permit for a reduction in density in an IHDA, i.e. 4 dwellings were demolished to build 1 dwelling. Is this not an underdevelopment of the site? And note, there is existing case law in VCAT for underdevelopment of sites. This is contrary to all Victorian planning practices relating to urban development in existing residential zones and IHDA areas and under the City of Greater Geelong planning scheme. Can Council please explain how the Planning Department justifies the issuing of this permit?
Thank you for your question, Bruce. If I could invite the Executive Director for Placemaking, Tennealle Bradley, to respond.
And thanks for your question, Bruce. The planning application for 2A Talbot Street and 4 to 8 Paringa Lane was for a construction of a single dwelling in a general residential zone. Firstly, it is relevant to note that a single dwelling is an as of right use in the general residential zone. A planning permit was only required under the provisions of the planning overlays relating to flood, design and development. Therefore, the City was not in a position to consider whether or not the proposal was an underdevelopment of the site.
Question 2, please.
Again, relating to the same development, this represents an unprecedented residential development in terms of size, bulk and environmental impact within Barwon Heads. It has been characterised by a deliberate strategy of creeping amendments that has stifled community input, generating widespread mistrust of the planning process. I think Elise and Ali will have seen that on the weekend. To restore community trust, will the Council agree to undertake an independent review of this project to identify proposed actions that will help prevent these tactics being employed on future projects?
Tennealle.
Thanks for your second question, Bruce. The City acknowledges that the planning permit process provides that applicants can apply for amendments to a planning permit. These are statewide requirements and officers can only consider the applications submitted before them. The current amendment is for a third storey to the approved two-storey development and is currently on public notice. There is no commitment for a review. Officers must have regard to the applicable policies in the planning scheme.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for your question. Claire McCole.
Again, with regard to the development of 2A Talbot Street, 4 to 8 Paringa Lane, can the Council explain how this single dwelling can contain 3 kitchens on 3 self-contained floors?
Tennealle, again, if you could please respond.
We note as part of the submission, the permit application only applied for a single dwelling. In terms of the definition of a dwelling in accordance with the planning scheme, a dwelling includes a building with a kitchen sink. The definition does not include nor preclude multiple kitchens, nor does the definition preclude multiple floors in order to meet the definition. The plan includes 1 vehicle access way for 3 vehicles, a single street entry for the building and internal connectivity to each level via a lift or stairs. Based on the details of the development, the proposal is considered to be a single dwelling.
Thank you for the question and for the answer, Tennealle. Michael Robertson.
Good evening. My question relates to the same development in Talbot Street, Barwon Heads, probably more so in relation to the construction nuisance it's causing. Having worked in the industry, I've been subject to onerous construction management scrutiny before a permit is being issued. Noting that this is not a condition of the permit, there's been a fair bit of correspondence back and forth with Council in relation to the nuisances. So my first question is, further to my email sent on Monday the 24th of March regarding the project at 4 Paringa Lane, could Council of City of Geelong please outline what actions it's taking in relation to ongoing nuisances and serious health and safety concerns? These concerns, which include traffic management, dust and mud control of the construction site, road management and noise and vibration, issues of which we believe fall directly within Council's jurisdiction. Can Council please provide clarity on its steps being taken to address these matters?
I'll invite Tennealle again to respond.
Thanks, Michael. The Private Building Surveyor, PBS, is appointed under the provisions of the Building Act and is responsible for ensuring the building complies with the regulatory requirements. Council officers have contacted the PBS and relayed resident concerns. The PBS has raised the issues with the builder who is undertaking the building project in accordance with the EPA, work cover and regulatory requirements. The builder has an internal project safety and environmental management plan, construction management plan, and relevant risk assessments in place, and continues to up these as the nature of the works on site change throughout the construction period. These measures endeavour to minimise disruptions to residents during construction whilst ensuring the project is completed within the required timeframes.
Question?
Sorry. Yeah, my email refuted the fact that it's the registered building surveyor's responsibility. The second question was, can council explain why it believes that many, if not most of these issues fall outside their responsibility, and provide a position on its duty and care and regulatory obligations regarding these concerns? This question is asked in the context that the complaints, inspections and correspondence we've received thus far suggest a lack of understanding of the project's complexity and, more importantly, council's role in overseeing and managing these matters.
Thank you. Good question, Michael. Council is not the responsible authority for the building permit. The responsibility falls on the private building surveyor appointed under state government legislation. Other regulatory agencies such as EPA and WorkCover set guidelines for the construction activity. Council may enforce these matters when breaches are identified, or the EPA can take direct enforcement action if required. Should residents continue to have concerns with the construction, we encourage direct contact with the builder and or the building surveyor to work through these matters in a collaborative way. Alternatively, the Victorian Building Authority can be contacted if necessary.
This shows a lack of understanding of the process, because these issues relate to nuisances within council assets, which is just not the responsibility of the registered building surveyor, which we've quite clearly stated and is quite clearly not understood by anyone from council.
Michael will respond to all the questions in writing within the 7 days. So moving on through the agenda, that concludes the question time. We have one petition tonight to be tabled. I now invite Councillor Wilkinson on behalf of residents in tabling the petition, please.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor. I am tabling a petition on behalf of John Spearings, and this petition is to the City of Greater Geelong regarding the Brimley General Store and Post Office closure. The number of signatures is approximately 182. The residents of Brimley and Conwaree seek the following commitments from the City of Greater Geelong regarding the announced closure by the Bowen Coast of the Brimley General Store and Post Office on the 5th of May 2025. 1. The Council calls on Bowen Coast to defer its decision to close the Brimley General Store and Post Office for a minimum period of 6 months. 2. That the Council requests Australia Post maintain existing services over the same period. 3, that Council agrees to participate in and co-lead a co-design process to determine a viable business model for the General Store and Post Office, including support in consultancy fees and any other associated costs. Number 4, that Council advocates to the federal and state members of parliaments and their governments seeking their support for the public investment in the General Store and Post Office, serving Brimley and Conwaree communities. In the interests of transparency, the Council releases its agreement with Bowen Coast and transfer Crown land in Brimley, including the Brimley Caravan Park, General Store and Post Office in 2022. This should include all related Council reports and data leading up to support this decision. As the Ward Councillor for this region, I've been working very closely with the community. This also comes with a letter that will also be tabled to the Council with this petition, and I'd like to read this letter written by John Spearing. So the petition was signed and endorsed by 99% of residents in Brimley and Conwaree. This is extraordinary. It shows the depth of feeling of community anxiety as important social infrastructure is taken away. We thank the City of Greater Geelong for hosting a public meeting with residents on Sunday the 16th of March and for taking action on a number of points already, most especially requesting Bowen Coast to defer its decision to close the Brimley General Store and Post Office, and releasing its agreement with Bowen Coast to transfer Crown land in Brimley, including the Brimley Caravan Park, General Store and Post Office. These are important steps. We understand that Bowen Coast intends to proceed with closing the General Store and surrendering the Post Office licence. The store closure will be delayed from the 5th of May until an alternative postal service is operational. A significantly reduced retail service may operate seasonally, principally serving the immediate needs of the caravan park guests. Barwon Coast has offered to identify opportunities to strengthen community connections and input into the transition of the store and post office. We're bitterly disappointed with this outcome, especially as Barwon Coast has repeatedly highlighted the importance of these services to Brimley residents and to Brimley Caravan Park guests. We are losing essential services and the opportunities to improve them. The community will come together on Thursday the 27th of March to consider the next steps. So one option to be considered is a working group with a local community team, City of Greater Geelong, Barwon Coast and stakeholders to consider service and infrastructure needs of Brimley residents, including postal and retail services. So as a ward councillor, I undertake to continue to work alongside the community and to bring stakeholders together and to sit around the table in terms of negotiating what's next. Thank you.
Councillor Wilkinson would take that petition as tabled. We now move into the main body. In relation to the first item, the Ocean Grove Sporting Infrastructure Plan 2025, if I just refer that one to the CEO to explain.
Thank you. Through the Mayor. In order to support a request from community groups that have yet to respond and provide letters of support for the Ocean Grove Sports Infrastructure Plan, the item will be removed from tonight's agenda and will be presented back to Council in the coming months.
Mr. Mayor, just a question. I've actually already wanting to know how other councillors can request this process as well too. So is there going to be a defined operational policy that's put out in relation to this process? That an item can be withdrawn based on community requests? Because it is setting a precedent. So it would be really good for us to actually understand how that can be used by other councillors as well too.
Take that on notice, Councillor Aiken, and we'll have a chat at our next councillor briefing and only time. So the next item is the amendment, South East Lara Residential Growth Area, and an amendment to the Lara Business Plan. Can I have a mover of that motion? Councillor Burson, and a seconder, Councillor Kados. Councillor Burson.
The recommendation is that Council supports the preparation and exhibition of Amendment C44 for GGEE and Amendment C453 GGEE to the Greater Geelong Planning Scheme to rezone the land at 76 to 156 Canterbury Road East, 775 Princess Highway and 785 to 805 Princess Highway, all in Lara, from farming zone to general residential zone Schedule 1, which is in the attachment. Insert a new schedule to clause 43.04, development plan overlay, and apply to 76 to 156 Canterbury Road East, 705 to 765 Princess Highway, 775 Princess Highway and 785 to 805 Princess Highway, all in Lara. Apply the environmental audit overlay to 76 to 156 Canterbury Road East, Lara, and amend the schedule to clause 72.03 to include maps 19 EAO and 19 DPO. To rezone the land at 785 to 805 Princess Highway and 705 to 765 Princess Highway, all in Lara, from farming zone to industrial 3 zone. Rezone the land at 705 to 765 Princess Highway and 610 Rennie Street, all in Lara, from farming zone to industrial zone 1. And insert a new schedule to clause 43.02 design and development overlay to apply to 765 Princess Highway, 785 to 805 Princess Highway, 76 to 156 Canterbury Road East, and 610 Rennie Street, all in Lara. And that we request the Minister for Planning to authorise the preparation and exhibition of Amendment C44 for GGEE and Amendment C453 GGEE. We got a better first amendment, but thanks for that. Just in reference to it, the northern part of that is going to be residential, which obviously we need more of. Ideally, we won't have an incinerator, but because that'll be obviously within the area. However, there will be residential to the top and industrial 1 and 2. I've spoken to the officers, and they are going to speak to the community about what that means. Obviously, being that we don't want an incinerator somewhere, to have then factories doing the same thing elsewhere, they're going to explain what industrial 1 and 3 is to the people so that they can put in complaints if they wish to or know more about it. I note that it isn't on here, but they were also potentially looking at a sports facility there that has the option. It's not obviously put in, we don't have the money for it at the moment, but the option is there that they're looking at. I also hope that when it goes to exhibition, they then put that out to actually have an on-ramp and exit ramp to the freeway, which may then mean we have less trucks coming in and through Hills Road, etc. To maybe take some trucks out of Lara, which is a big issue at the moment. I'm also cautious that with Canterbury Road West being east and west, having a roundabout there that already has issues, whether we can do something to fix that using contributions somehow to then maybe increase Forest Road South to a less congested intersection there. And I know that they've also taken into consideration flooding, being that the river's there, and there's a railway track just next to it as well. So there's potential for industry to maybe use the rail as well. Like, it's a pretty good location for industry. And yeah, more houses to the north, which is already residential.
Councillor Burson, Councillor Katos.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Many of us would have driven past this land on many occasions, driving to Melbourne or Lara or into Melbourne. As you come past the Ring Road merge, it's the land on the left there, so it's bounded by the Princess Highway, Hovels Creek to the north, and the railway line to the west. The proposal is the northern section, which is C444 GGEE. Interesting planning scheme numbers. To the north is residential land, and that's by and large connects to the residential land that's existing. Sporting fields is a buffer between the residential and industrial 3, which is lighter industrial. So there's 11 hectares of sporting fields proposed there with soccer pitches, lacrosse, netball, and also AFL and cricket, and pavilions. So there's a good area for sporting there because Lara does have a shortage of sporting fields, so that's a good proposal. Then you have the industrial 3 and then the industrial 1 land to the south. Which sort of lines up opposite the Geelong Ring Road Employment Precinct, which is probably heavier industrial as well. So it will provide 600 house lots in the northern section in the general residential area. Then probably the one thing I think Councillor Burson's also said about Canterbury Road's going to cop a bit of a hiding, if you like, with the new residential there. So I think, although Vic Roads is of the view that we don't need another ramp entry onto the freeway, I think it's quite logical to do that because you're going to have residential and you're going to have industrial. Industrial 1 will bring some pretty big trucks to that area, so it probably makes a bit of sense that that's investigated. But look, I encourage, obviously this is to go out for exhibition, so I encourage those people who are supportive of the project to let their views be known, and perhaps anyone who's got issues with the project to also let their views be known.
Councillor Katos. Any other councillor? Councillor Aitken.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. Look, Councillor Burson and I have actually already received some correspondence from the community in relation to this proposed amendment. It is important to acknowledge that the council is not seen in a trusted light in the Lara community, and this proposed multi-amendment has actually once again raised concerns in the community because of that. What I do encourage those people that have started to contact both myself and Councillor Burson is to please have a look at the proposed planning amendment and the components of it, to actually have a look what impact it actually does make onto the broader Lara community, and if they do have a strong objection, or if they do have a position they wish to represent, that they do actually put it forward during the exhibition phase if the Minister chooses to do that. But I think it is important that that there is confusion as to why and where this has come from, and because of the historic issues that we've had in the last 5 to 10 years about multiple planning applications in the Lara community, that I understand where that community is coming from, but please have a look, read in more detail, and put a very considered submission in associated with the amendment.
Okay, anyone else wishing to speak? If not, Councillor Burston, anything in closing?
No, just what I said at the start, but also to back Councillor Aiken, if you do have concerns, make sure you ask questions and put that forward.
All those in favour? Anyone against? No, carried unanimously. So the next item is the proposed road discontinuance and transfer of unmade road adjoining 137 to 167 Cox Road, Nor Lane. Have a mover of that, Councillor Aitken. Second, Councillor Kados. Councillor Aitken.
Thank you very much, Mr Mayor. Look, I'm happy to move the proposal to put it to a submissions review panel, but I don't necessarily agree with a number of the comments that are written in the report associated with it. It's not an inconsequential proposal that's been put before Council tonight. It actually does provide a significant financial windfall for the developer. The site that we're actually referring to is 3 metres by 201 metres, which is over 600 square metres. And so the financial windfall for the developer is estimated around about $673,000. So what I encourage the community to do is to actually have a look at this proposal, and in their submissions, please see how council can actually get some more value from this particular transaction. Yes, the council is assisting the developer associated with it, but there are some opportunities that this proposal actually presents the council officers in negotiating. We could ask for an increase in public realm and expenditure associated at the development site because of the $600,000 windfall of the proposed development. And we could also, legislation suggests that we have to negotiate for social and housing opportunities in any development site. And this transaction actually does give the opportunity for officers to actually negotiate with the developer to actually see if there can be some additional social or affordable housing presented on that site location. Simply suggesting that this proposal is a transactional one which has minimal financial benefit to the council and to the developer is not necessarily true. The developer will actually use this unroad land, which is being turned into commercial residential development opportunity. And as I said, if it's about 600 square metres, our existing lot sizes in Geelong are around 400,000 square metres. The average lot size in Geelong is $425,000 per square metre. So this is 1.5 times what an average lot size is actually sold for in Geelong. So please, we can go through the process, but I encourage the community to have a look at it, and I encourage the officers also as well too to look at how they could negotiate a greater return for the community for participating in this crystallisation of profitability for the developer.
Councillor Aiken. So, Councillor Kados.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. So the site in question, most of you would know it as the former Nor Lane High School site. So this is the eastern end of the former school that fronts onto Cox Road, and the unnamed road. So the owner, the part in question is already owned by the developer who's purchased the land, but the existing easement sat there, and the records show from the 5th of September 1969 that the road, the easement's there, but it's an unnamed road that was never built. So whilst I appreciate Councillor Aitken's comments, that the developer already owns this land, and it was a road that was intended to be built many moons ago, but just simply was never done. But nonetheless, I encourage people to make their thoughts known on this through the submissions review panel. If you feel strongly about this issue, please, by all means, turn up to the submissions review panel and have your say regarding it. But with that, I'm happy to support the motion before the chamber.
Any other councillor wishing to comment on the matter? No. Councillor Aiken, to close.
Nothing further to add, Mr Mayor.
So all those in favour? Against? No one? Unanimous. So we then move to item 2.4, the community plan, the quarterly report to the period ending December 2024. Councillor Wilkinson moving and Councillor Sinclair seconding. So Councillor Wilkinson.
Thank you, Mayor. This report recommends the Council notes that our Community Plan Quarterly Report December 2024. So this Community Plan was from 2021 to 2025, and it's important to note that we're currently developing our new plan. That, the previous council need to be commended for such a thorough and comprehensive plan. It's a key strategic document which identifies the outcomes and priorities council will focus its efforts on over the 4 years. So our community plan is supported by an annual budget and action plan which outlines the actions taking place in 24 to 25. The community plan has been integrated with the municipal public health and wellbeing plan for the first time. The quarterly report documents the work that's been undertaken to improve equity, access and inclusion for all. The report breaks down the actions according to the 4 strategic directions, which were healthy, caring and inclusive community, sustainable growth and environment, strong local economy and high-performing council and organisation. So of the 58 actions reported on the quarterly report, there are a number that have gone, that are on track and others that have either been delayed or on hold, but I'll let Councillor Sinclair go into more detail about that.
Councillor Sinclair.
Thank you. So of the 58 actions that we have in the community plan, the majority are on track, which is fantastic. So 51 of the 58 are on track for completion. 2 have already been completed, such as the John Landyfield athletics track and the implementation of a new governance structure and framework for informal meetings of council. There are a few that have been delayed or have been put on hold over the life of the council plan, but that's only 5 out of the 58. So I look forward to seeing how the remaining 51 that are on track become implemented over the life of the community plan. As Councillor Wilkinson said, it is coming to a close and we are preparing our new community plan after some extensive consultation last year between July and September. Really encourage residents to jump on the Have Your Say page as well to see any upcoming community engagement that they can participate in. There's lots of reports on there at the moment that you can have your say, and the community plan will come back to that portal.
Councillor Sinclair, any other councillor wishing to speak? If not, Councillor Wilkinson to close.
Thank you. And I'm just hoping, just in terms of what we've learnt from this current community plan, that we actually take the next one to sort of, I suppose, is anticipated evolve, but obviously crafted from community aspirations and beliefs, council values here, and that it all sort of comes together with a very well-crafted plan for the next 4 years. But yeah, I commend this quarterly report. Thank you.
So put that to the vote. All those in favour? Against? Unanimous. So then we have planning authorisation to staff. Can I have a mover? Councillor Kados and second Councillor Sullivan. Councillor Kados.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Look, this is just quite a simple motion. Basically, there's certain, under the Environment Protection Act and Planning Act, we delegate powers to council officers, and in certain instances, those officers has to be actually physically named and actually given that power through an instrument of a motion of council. So in tonight's, we have the relevant instrument here, and tonight Sarah Exley is being delegated as a council officer. Congratulations, sir. Of course, if the motion were to pass the chamber. So that's basically it. But just the legislation does require that we actually name the officer and that their powers are delegated to them.
And Councillor Sullivan.
Nothing further to add, Mr Mayor.
The vote. All those in favour? It's unanimous. We move then to planning delegations. Councillor Kados and Councillor Sullivan second. Councillor Kados.
Yeah, so it's just receive the information from the from the planning decisions report made by the DMC, as noted there in the council, in the report.
Councillor Sullivan?
Further, Mr Mayor.
Any further? Thank you. So all those in favour? Carried. Then move to a record of informal meetings of councillors. We have a mover, Councillor Cadwell, moving that. And a seconder, Councillor Sullivan. Councillor Cadwell.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I move that the item be put, essentially that Council receives a summary of the informal meetings of councillors for the period to 25 March 2025. Thank you.
Councillor Sullivan.
As read, Mr Mayor.
All right, so all those in favour? Against? Carried. So according to my agenda, that closes the meeting. So thank you everyone for that, for your contribution. Thank you for the gallery for hanging in there. And we'll see you next month.